Alright, so I got back with another video a lot quicker than I thought I was going to. Last night, shortly after I got home with my ridiculous brawl foon, somebody announced it was Lethal, our CEO, announced that Volta, who was friends with our corp, wanted our help with an op. They wanted us to bring a bunch of alpha tornadoes, and we were going to go pick a fight with Fatal Ascension, who live nearby. And so, of course, War God, being the epic asshole that he is, we agreed. I mean, anytime he takes an op out, it's great fun. So we all got Lethal and got a jump raider full of tornadoes to bring them back into Royer, where we're living now. And the time comes for the op. We head over to their home system, and we head over to Fatal Ascension's home system, or at least one of their headquarters systems, L-C. I didn't have a tornado because I didn't know that I was going to make the app, so I borrowed a vagabond from Lethal. And a vagabond in this kind of a situation, I mean, a tornado can engage at pretty long ranges, but a vagabond can't. But a vagabond would still be useful as an anti-tackler. So basically I sit somewhere 20-ish or so off of the fleet, and if I see anything coming towards the fleet, especially frigates, I blow it up. And in general, I try to stay at least 25-30k away from the hostile fleet so that I can warp if I have to, but we have Loki links so that I can point out to 42 if I need to, which is incredibly useful, or at least it would be if we didn't have a Lachesis in fleet doing our long-range tackle for us. So in this fight, I'm pretty passive at most points. I'm waiting for stuff to happen for me to respond to, and I do at times. I wish I only fraps when I'm actually fighting, not when I'm warping around or maneuvering, and I missed a couple of times where a stealth bomber uncloaked on our gang or something, and I managed to tackle it and smoke it. But I think I did a pretty good job, and you still get to see what amounts to a decently interesting fight. So I'm gonna hit play here, and we were hanging out on a gate or somewhere, and we had finally convinced them to undock and be in a place where we could warp to them. And so we warped to them at range at about 60k, and anyhow, here we go. So we warp in and land, and there's a whole mess of ships on grid. Primary comes out, there's a ship here, it's Hurricane, and it's caught in their own bubble. So the tornadoes start shooting at stuff, and I start working on this tackler here. I try to get a little closer, but by the time that I figure out that I should point that guy, he's already burning away for dear life. I start shooting at some other guys. Here's a Hurricane. Here's me whoring onto the Hurricane kill mail because I'm not doing substantial damage. By the way, people have been underestimating tornadoes. I mean, they are paper. They are very, very easy to kill, but if you fly them like this, they become absolutely lethal. You fly them, you warp in at decent range with high damage ammo, and you blow stuff up. This scimitar was close to me, so I figured I would burn into it and get a point and hold it down while we killed it. And also I could do some decent damage to it, but in the process I managed to get myself primaried, so I warped off. That's a cool thing about nanos, is that if you get primaried, you can just disappear pretty easily. Here we had managed to convince them to come back out and play some more, so I began burning in to try and get points. Our Loki links was an alt of the FC, so they became turned on and off at various points throughout the fight, which was confusing me as I was burning in trying to get tackle on some things. With Loki links, an overheated Tech 2 warp disruptor will point out to 42 kilometers, which is pretty substantial compared to 24 or 28 overheated without Loki links. Here's a bomber that uncloaked. There's a Merlin, some various stuff as the fleet's busy dealing with everyone else. You can see we lost one battlecruiser this whole fight. It was one guy who fell asleep at the wheel, I guess. And we did some pretty substantial damage. I think the final death toll came out to like 20-1, and eventually they just, like this, we'd engage them, and either we'd have to warp out because we were drifting out of range with our alignment, or they'd warp out like they're doing right here on their own station. And make no mistake, tornadoes are dangerous. They don't have a lot of shield, but you don't need a lot of shield to hit really hard. Here I forgot to turn fraps on when we landed on this gate, and I got primaried and had to warp off, so by the time I get back the enemies have already left field, and I resumed looting, which I guess was my sole occupation this fight. I ended up with a full cargo hold once again. Warping back in, here's some targets. We were getting our warp ins from a cove-ops or something, and I never saw the guy, so I didn't know what it was, but we were warping to him at 0, and that ended up putting us almost exactly 70k off the enemy fleet every time. So I had to be very mindful of the fact that if I got too close I might get tackled, but at the same time that if I didn't get close enough I wasn't going to hit anything or be useful at all. And almost every time I landed on grid, I immediately got their attention, because I mean, the tornadoes were staying well out of range the whole time, staying aligned and doing damage from their optimals, and I was burning into shit and not being aligned and generally being a complete ass. So rightly so that they would call me primary so many times. Here we are, they've warped back to station, docked up, and come back out in slightly different ships. They're reshipping BS Heavy, where they were initially flying battle cruisers, and we have a mounting concern that they're going to reship into maelstroms and have too much alpha for us to deal with. But that hasn't happened just yet, so we continue to deal with that as it comes. I have to be forced off the field again. And this was the last warp in that I frapsed. I didn't manage to get the clip when we engaged when they undocked in maelstroms, but we basically hightailed it at that point. Here we land, and there's not a whole lot of them left on the field, and everything that I point manages to get docked before we can put any damage on it. So I take the opportunity and loot some more wrecks, and we hang out for a minute while we wait for them to make their next move, which turns out to be maelstroms, which is a great move for them, not so much for us. So we turn around and leave because they don't really have a mechanism for keeping us there. So I guess moral of the story, what you should take away is that don't mess around with tornado gangs, because we will end you. There's not a lot that a tornado gang can't engage. They're very nimble. They have a lot of alpha. They can do hit and runs very effectively. And as far as playing an anti-tackle role in a fast nano hack, basically just be aware of where enemy tacklers are. Be aware of when they start getting too close to the fleet. Basically anything that separates itself from the main fleet, get ahead of it, get some guns on it, try and get a point. But basically your objective isn't to get kills, it's to keep things from getting your main fleet tackled. That's just accomplished by making sure there are not tacklers on the field anywhere close to your damaged ships. Anyhow, probably not going to be any more videos, any more fights tonight, but I'll try to get something else up hopefully this weekend at the latest. Still looking for more contributors, so if you're out there and you've got fraps and you get good fights, holler at me in game. That's about it. Hope you enjoyed.